Fifth bout on the UFC 300 card will be between Sodiq Yusuff and Diego Lopes. This is a very interesting fight. This is a pretty big step up for Diego Lopes outside of his Movsar Evloev fight. Sodiq Yusuff is coming off a main event loss to Edson Barboza. So pretty interesting matchup here. A lot of things can move around. Sodiq Yusuff is still pretty young. Diego Lopes still pretty young as well. So very interesting matchup between surging contenders in the featherweight division. I'm going to get right into it with this prediction. The one thing that I will say when looking at this fight, because I feel like this is kind of a 50-50 in my brain, maybe some people will probably give it a little bit more to Diego Lopes. Some people will probably give it a little bit more to Sodiq Yusuff, because Sodiq Yusuff is kind of proven, like we've seen him in a lot of different fights, even though he just lost to Edson Barboza. He kind of brought it to him in the first round. He did really well and then started to tire out a little bit more. But Diego Lopes is like slowly becoming a star. I mean, I was at the UFC 296. I wasn't at that press conference, but I think he was at like the seasonal one or whatever. Like I saw him in the crowd. I think even for the weigh-ins, like he's a pretty big star. A lot of fans were taking pictures of him. There's actually a pretty big cheer for him in the crowd when he did come out. So Diego Lopes is kind of becoming a star. I don't think he's going to be like a massive star, like a superstar or anything like that, or even a guy that you'll put like at the top part of a main card. But I think for a lot of guys that watch the pay-per-views, casually watch the fights, I think Diego Lopes kind of sticks out, especially with his little haircut. But Diego Lopes, I will say, he does have really good finishing potential, which I do like in this fight. Sodiq Yusuff is very good on the feet and does have some decent ground game as well, which I like to see. But Diego Lopes, his striking's getting a little bit better. He's actually a coach for a lot of these Mexican fighters. I noticed, like, he's in their corner, so he's making some good money as a coach. And a lot of people trust him with his jiu-jitsu skills as well. I think that's very important going into this fight. I think Diego Lopes will be looking, not necessarily looking, but Sodiq Yusuff will be going forward. Diego Lopes will be circling around a little bit more. Similar to like the Movsar fight, I don't think Yusuff is going to be going for takedowns. I think that would actually be really stupid. I don't think he's going to be going for takedowns. He wants to keep this on the feet, but I think we'll see Lopes operating out the back foot, looking for counters when Sodiq Yusuff comes in. However, I do think this fight is going to be a little bit more competitive at the beginning. I do think Lopes will get tagged up. And then I can see this fight like eventually going to the ground. Either Lopes gets dropped or he ends up like taking down Yusuff potentially. I think Yusuff will probably stuff that takedown, but I just think at some point this fight's going to end up on the ground. I think Lopes is actually going to get tagged up quite a bit. And I do think this fight does end up going to the ground, and I think he does get dropped probably in the second round is what I'll say. If not, I can't see Sodiq Yusuff getting finished early. I think if anything were to happen, if Sodiq Yusuff were to get finished, I think it'd probably be in the second or third round, in all honesty. And this is where my prediction is tending to go. I can see Yusuff actually, after having a very competitive first round, dropping Lopes and then jumping into his guard, and Lopes just kind of doing his work there. Because we saw what Lopes was able to do against a good grappler in Movsar Evloev, and it kind of just said a lot there. Movsar has very dominant grappling. Sometimes he can't get guys down. Maybe me overstating that is a little bit too much, because some people will probably argue that whether or not his grappling is really that good, because a lot of the times, or at least recently, we haven't really seen him like dominate someone on the ground. But he has very good grappling, very good wrestling. And Diego Lopes had him in some really good finishing positions on the ground. Was making it very tough for Movsar, especially on a short notice fight for Diego Lopes. Looked really impressive there. If he can do that to a guy like Movsar, who's very disciplined, very good grappling, very good wrestling, I think he can do the same thing to Yusuff. I think Diego Lopes gets dropped in the second round. His striking is getting better, so I think it will be competitive in the first, but I think he does get dropped in the second. Yusuff will hop on his guard, and it's kind of that Oliveira thing is what I'll say here. I know Lopes is not as dangerous on the feet, and I think I am kind of going on a limb here, sticking with Diego Lopes in this fight. I know he's 29 years of age, 23-6, so there is some tape on him. Not too much on the UFC against high-level opponents, like he fought Gavin Tucker and Pat Sabatini, which was probably like the easiest money of my life making. I'm just going to be honest. I thought it was pretty clear he's going to KO Pat Sabatini. I didn't think he had a good chin. So, but anyways, I think it's kind of like an Oliveira type thing where I think Lopes can be competitive on the feet, but I think he'll never have to worry about getting finished in this fight, especially on the ground, because I don't think he's going to get flatlined by Sodiq Yusuff. And if he does get dropped, I think he'll end up on his back, and I think he'll probably even be in a better position. So if Yusuff is kind of smart here and ends up like dropping Lopes at some point in this fight, don't jump on his guard. I mean, if you're a Yusuff fan, I know he did some of that YouTube stuff or whatever that people really liked, but if you're a Yusuff fan, you don't want him hopping in Lopes's guard, because he's extremely dangerous. and I do think he would probably submit Sodiq Yusuff on the ground in his guard. But it is kind of that thing where Lopes, if he gets dropped here, I don't think he's going to get finished on the ground. If anything, he'll probably be finishing Yusuff on the ground. I do think he gets dropped in the second. I think Yusuff makes a pretty big mistake here and ends up getting submitted. I won't say like a knee bar or anything, but maybe like a triangle. I can see him get it caught in. People are saying KO for Lopes. I don't necessarily like that. Again, it was kind of worrying. I know it was Edson Barboza, but in a 5-round fight, just seeing Yusuff kind of tire out a little bit more. It was a very good scrap. But kind of just emptying that gas tank, especially if he lands some really good shots on Lopes. Who's to say that Yusuff won't tire out a little bit more? It is 3 rounds, so maybe he'll go for it. Especially more like if he was going for it in the 5-round fight and started tiring out. Imagine in a 3-round fight. So he beat Don Shainis by guillotine. I think Don Shainis came on short notice. It was like one of those fights where it's like, why is this fight happening? But beat Alex Caceres by decision, then lost to Arnold Allen by a decision as well. I think we'll learn a lot about Diego Lopes in this fight. I'm going on a limb and picking him here. I think this fight could go either way, in my opinion. Yusuff is very solid. I just think Diego Lopes in the bright lights with the finishing potential. I think he'll look very good here, and I do think he'll end up submitting Sodiq Yusuff with the triangle after getting dropped in the second round. I'll probably say mid-second round, like 230, 240 or whatever. But I'm going Diego Lopes by submission in the second round, triangle choke after getting dropped. He'll probably go for like a knee bar or whatever. Yusuff will probably overcommit in the guard, try to finish him, and then he just gets caught into a triangle there. I won't say knee bar because he'd probably escape out of that and probably want him up if he almost gets his knee snapped. But I think he just overcommits too much in his guard when he drops Lopes and ends up getting submitted. So I'm going Diego Lopes, second round submission. Let me know who you guys have down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time.